Flames reports are escalating as new reports have revealed multiple updates revolving around JJ Peterka of the Buffalo Sabres, our very own Rasmus Andersson and his contract/trade status, and some free agency news. Everyone is speaking their mind, and it looks like Craig Conroy has a lot on his hands. We're going to get into all that and more in this video, but first I want to welcome you to Flames Digest. I'm Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love the Flames, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around your Calgary Flames. We would love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family. And we're going to start with the man, or the men, I should say, on the thumbnail. And it is, of course, talking about JJ Peterka, who at this point I think has been linked to all 31 other teams than the Buffalo Sabres. There's no denying he wants out of Buffalo, just like essentially every other NHL player does. I saw a hilarious TikTok that was literally about 3 minutes long, just going over players that didn't want to be there in the past 15 years or so. But either way, we do have, I guess, an update from our very beloved Frank Seravalli, every Flames fan's favorite. So he says that the Flames have called on the Sabres, JJ Peterka, and he said this on Sportsnet 960, The Fan. Now, it was rumored before/reported before that, the Flames may have interest. But I guess the update here is that the Flames have called for sure, according to Seravalli here, that the Flames have at least inquired to the Sabres about JJ Peterka. Now, it's interesting. Are we just going to load up on wingers and never get a center? I don't know. But JJ Peterka would be a great player to have. He really fits the timeline the Flames, of course, are looking for. So to double up on this, this comes from an article. So that it says the Flames in hot pursuit of JJ Peterka, which could be, a little bit misleading, maybe a little emphasized. I would never do that with one of the titles on this channel. But essentially it says Seravalli also reported on Sportsnet 960 that the Calgary Flames have inquired about Buffalo Sabres for JJ Peterka, noting the situation has really heated up over the past 4 to 5 days. Very, very interesting. Elliot Friedman added that Buffalo is starting to come to terms with Peterka's unhappiness and the possibility of a trade is becoming more realistic. It just seems set in stone at this point. I mean, he's following the paths of so many guys like Reinhart, Eichel, etc. Meanwhile, the Flames have also exchanged contract figures with Rasmus Andersson's camp as talks continue on a potential extension, which takes us directly into our next chapter of this video. But before I do that, let me know what you think. Should the Flames go after JJ Peterka here? Do you think the Flames could strike a deal that really does make sense for them? Or would they have to give up too much, especially of the futures that we want to keep for a guy like Peterka? Yes, it'd be great to have him, but it might cost a little bit too much. But now that we've spoken about Peterka, let's get into that Rasmus Andersson talk. Why don't we? Something none of us ever get tired of because the rumors just keep flying. And this next one kind of has to go with, I guess, his status with the Flames. So, again, this time from David Pagnotta, every Flames fan's second favorite NHL reporter/insider. So he says, I think, keyword think, I think the Flames will listen on Rasmus Andersson if there isn't progress towards a new extension before the end of the month. Also, from Sportsnet 960. Now, a lot of people will be saying, duh, isn't that totally obvious? Well, yes, of course. If the Flames can't get an extension, they will probably try to trade away Rasmus Andersson. I guess what the big update here, of course, is that by the end of this month, by the end of June, which is, less than a couple weeks now left, the Flames will know whether they're keeping Rasmus Andersson and, I guess not necessarily keeping him, but signing him to an extension, or if the trade talks really will continue, especially once free agency, of course, starts to heat up on July 1st. So I guess that is quite interesting there. Lots of people were speaking out about this, and it's funny enough because the top comment underneath this was actually a trade proposal involving Peterka. So it says Peterka and Bowen Byram for Rasmus Andersson, Matt Coronato, and Ryan Lomberg. That is a very interesting trade, and it comes from Sabres Realist. I don't know how realistic this trade could be, but it is totally interesting. Yes, we'd be getting rid of Andersson. Byram could come in on that left side. It's perfect. Peterka and Coronato, pretty interchangeable. Lomberg obviously does so much for the character, so much for the locker room. We want to keep him around, absolutely. But at the end of the day, in a trade like this, I guess it makes sense to involve him. But overall, this is really interesting. Coronato can end up being the best player in this entire trade. So it's an interesting one. Don't know if I'd do it from the Flames side, but it is honestly very, very intriguing. Another person said, right-handed D get paid, period. And this is true. It seems like Andersson is just going to be locked up to a huge contract whenever that next one is. So if they've been exchanging numbers, I would imagine that Conroy or at least the Flames camp and Andersson's camp probably aren't close, or else we would have heard about it. It's been a lot of weird talk going around with Andersson and the contract talks, because they keep saying that they're discussing stuff and then we never hear anything. So either way, I digress. Another one here involves the Flyers. So this person on Twitter said, could you imagine if Danny, obviously Danny Briere, got a sign and trade done? We have traded with the Flyers before. I have no idea what we would want back from the Flyers in a trade for Rasmus Andersson. Raz would be great over in Philly, especially obviously if he got the trade and then sign the extension. But again, I don't really know what Philly would have that we want. Maybe Jacob Pelche. Isn't that a name that we miss? Either way, there were more stuff said underneath this. Adam, who comments on everything, said Rasmus Andersson has to be traded at the draft. I think a lot of Flames fans will agree with that. It's better to trade him sooner than later, especially around the draft. Usually interesting things can happen. You can really trade up in a draft, obviously, if it's near that time. Tree Living Suck said they need to trade him and keep selling to tank. This team will forever be mid otherwise. That's a sentiment that a lot of Flames fans agree with. Once again, they would like to see Raz traded and kind of the Flames to maybe bottom out next year. And then this Canes fan said Slavin's new partner. I don't know how Carolina would be able to bring on Andersson. It totally depends on what they do with their free agents. But yeah, it's safe to say he'd be a pretty good D partner with Slavin. His offensive game would get totally amplified. But again, I don't know what Carolina would have that we would want to take, but that's a discussion for another day. Now, the last thing we have to go over is a little bit of free agency talk in this video, as we've had another report involving the Flames. I know so many in one day. And this one comes from Anthony DeMarco, another guy from Daily Faceoff. He says, not sure if it's already out there, but sounds like the Flames will be, unsurprisingly, moving on from pending UFAs Anthony Mantha and Tyson Barrie. Now, obviously, very different stories for their tenures with the Calgary Flames. Mantha was pretty good in, I believe he played 13 games or something, was half a point per game sort of thing, and then tore his ACL. It was too bad. He could have been really good. It looked like he was gelling with Huberdeau a lot. Barrie, complete opposite story, kind of was on the practice squad all year sort of thing before the Flames finally, had the grace to send him down to the Wranglers so he could play a little bit of meaningful hockey. Did not play that much with the Flames at all. So kind of unsurprisingly that Barrie's gone. Mantha, I think a lot of people would have liked to keep around, as here are the stats. So NHL headlines, they said the Flames will not be re-signing Mantha and Barrie. They will become UFAs on July 1st. Mantha, who's 30 years old, had 4 goals and 7 points through 13 games with the Flames this season. He missed the remainder of the season due to a torn ACL. It really was too bad. Barrie, 33 years old, had 1 goal and 3 points through 13 games with the Flames this past season. I remember seeing him against the Leafs. It was a little shaky. He also had 2 goals, 5 points in 11 games with the Wranglers down in the A. So really, he only played 24 games, which you do feel for the guy. You wish he was playing a little bit more, but I kind of am thinking his time in the NHL is probably over unless a team is really desperate for an offensive defenseman. I really like Barrie. I think he was great in his prime, but unfortunately, the prime is gone. So unsurprisingly, the Flames will not be re-upping that. Not that I think Barrie would want to be here anyway. Here are some thoughts from some fans as well. So this guy says, Mantha was looking good, but gotta make room, I guess. And it is true. Maybe bring in some youth instead. Hanzo here said, I agree with Barrie, but why Mantha? He was looking really good in the 13 games before his injury. It is true. It would have made sense to keep him, but again, making that room for guys who came up at the end of the season, guys like Morton and etc., could definitely go into the lineup. So very interesting there. Another guy says, really sucks about Mantha. He could have been fun to watch if he wasn't injured. It's so true. Who knows if maybe his little bit of offense could have gotten the Flames into the playoffs last season if he hadn't gotten injured and had continued to click with Huberdeau, maybe snipe some more goals. Could have definitely been interesting overall. And last thing here is that, interestingly, not mentioned in this report or anywhere, is Kevin Rooney, Joel Hanley, or Justin Kirkland, which is interesting. So does that mean that the Flames are planning on re-signing these guys? I don't think Rooney will re-sign. I really don't. Hanley, there's a chance, and Kirkland, I definitely think will. I'd also be down to obviously keep Kirkland and Hanley. Do they keep roster spots away from younger guys? Maybe. Obviously, Hanley on the left side doesn't matter as much. Rooney, I think a lot of Flames fans are ready for him to go, and I kind of think he'd be down to also leave Calgary if he can get NHL minutes elsewhere. But it is interesting to note that there are more guys who could hit unrestricted free agency come July first. Now let's wrap up this video with the comment of the day, as we love to do here on the channel. It comes from yesterday's video, which I gotta be honest, the message of yesterday's video was supposed to be pretty funny, and it just went over so many people's heads. I can't say I'm surprised, but for those of you that understood yesterday's video, thank you so much. But this person here, Cassius, said something super real. So they said, too bad Bennett and Tkachuk couldn't do that to the Oilers when they were here. And it is true. Obviously, they just decimated the Oilers in the finals, won the cup. The Oilers lose the cup twice in a row, thanks to the Flames, essentially, and Brad Treliving. But it is true. Bennett and Tkachuk could have done that while they were here. Maybe it'd be a whole different story. Maybe we could have had a couple of cups, but of course, that's just wishful thinking. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe like you saw here today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.